Hello students, welcome back and I hope you all are doing great. We will continue with the questions that we were doing yesterday. Of course, the questions that I've taken today is from a different set of the same year. So yesterday I completed the first 20 questions from the first set, and as you all know that there will be 3 sets of each paper where certain questions will be different in each set, yeah? So I have tried to accumulate all the other questions, the different ones that I did not cover up yesterday. So we have few more multiple choice questions followed by some short questions too. So let's try to do all of them one by one, and I hope you will understand. Feel free to ask in between, and we will do a lot of questions today. Let's get started then. All right, so this question did not appear in the paper that we did yesterday. Yes, Rishabh, welcome back. And we will continue with different questions of the same paper. I'm taking the different sets. So let's continue, okay? Let's get started. And you already see the first question, and I hope you already know the answer too. Or if you don't know, then we'll go through the process and let's get the answer. First of all, the question is asking you to find the middle term where they have given you the sum of 3 terms. Now you don't know what 3 terms are there, okay? So you don't know if these are the first 3 terms or the last 3 terms. You know nothing. You just know that there are 3 consecutive terms and their sum is 30. Find the middle term. How exactly do you approach this question? Well, there is a shortcut. The shortcut is to take the sum. It's the sum of 3 numbers. So 3 is an odd number. This shortcut works only for odd numbers, okay? The shortcut tells you to take the sum and just divide it by 3 because it's the sum of 3 values. So 30 divided by 3, the answer is 10. Now the answer is 10. But obviously knowing the shortcut is not okay. You need to know why this shortcut works, okay? If you have to consider 3 terms in an AP, you would always consider the middle one as A. Why am I doing so? So that the previous one would be considered as A minus D. The reason is because every common difference is D, and when you want to go to the previous term, you would subtract that D, right? And according to this question, there are 3 terms, so the following term after A would be A plus D. So they have given you the sum of 3 terms as x, let's say. Then if I'll use this technique, then you clearly see minus d and plus d cancels out to give you 3a equals to x and a equals to x upon 3. Now here clearly I've told you a represents the middle term, right? So to find the middle term, all you should do is you can take the sum of 3 terms and then divide by 3. Similarly, if you know the sum of 5 terms, you can take the sum and divide by 5, okay? So remember, this works only for odd number of terms given to you. So the answer is B, 10, and you're done. All right? You really don't have to process it like you do the regular questions from AP, because or else if I'll say the first term is A, second term is D, second term is A plus D and A plus 2D, you'll have 2 variables to deal with, and you cannot solve 2 variables using just 1 equation. All right. So this is the logic. This is how you should approach questions like this. So if question talks to you about finding the middle term, this is what you can do. And because you don't have to show any working for such a question for multiple choice, knowing these kind of shortcuts can be helpful, okay? So I've explained you why it works. It's very important to understand that. Don't just understand the shortcut. Moving on, I want to move to the next question. This is a question now. It is from area related to circles. An arc of circle is of length 5 centimeter and the sector it bounds has an area of 20 pi centimeter square. What is the radius? Now, an arc length has been given to you 5 pi and the sector it bounds has an area of 20 pi centimeter square. Question wants you to find the radius. So clearly, the arc of a circle is just a part of the circumference. And what part it is just described, or it is entirely depending on one thing, that is the angle, the central angle. Okay? Now question talks about the same sector formed by that arc. How can you find the radius? The arc length is always equal to, as I told you, arc is a part of a circumference, so 2 pi r, but it is just a fraction. So what fraction it is? Theta by 360. That means whatever angle at the center makes with the total angle, that fraction times the total circumference gives you the arc length here. So that is given to you as 5 pi. So now consider cancelling out pi and pi both sides. This 2 gets cancelled out with 360, giving you 180, right? And now we have two variables. Theta is also missing, radius is also missing. So I'll do one thing, I'll write down theta r equals to, again 180 is the denominator this side, so I'm going to take it to the other side to make it the numerator. 18 times 5 is 90, so 900. Okay, I got the answer that theta r equals to 900. For now, I can keep it as it is. They are asking me to find the area of 20 pi, or they have given me the area is 20 pi centimeter square. So what is the area now? Theta by 360 times pi r squared. Now that should be equal to 20 pi. Again, you have pi and pi cancelling out from both sides, right? And luckily we have the value of theta r. So now what I have here is theta r square. I can write theta r square as theta r times r, right? And 20 times 360. How much is 20 times 360? I can do that. Double of 336 is 72. So 7,200. I have two zeros to carry with. Okay, so I'm just doing that. Now theta r, I already know that is equal to 900. So I'll just write down 900 r equals to 7,200. Now cancel out two zeros from both sides, and then you have to divide by 9 both sides. If you'll divide by 9, you will have the answer 9 times 8 is 72. So the answer has to be, we just got clearly r is equal to 8 centimeters. See? This is quite easy. Now in this question, there are two information given to you. So the reason why there are two information is because you have two variables missing. So always keep this clear. You know, if you have two things missing, then you need two statements, two equations. If you have one thing missing, then one statement is enough. So this is how you can approach question like this. If there is a shorter way, you know, please go ahead and let me know. But I think this is quite short, it's not that long, and all I did was just compare the two equations, okay? Question 4 is done. Moving on to the next question. Well, you're asking me why are you not smiling today? Nothing like that. It is just, you know, I had many classes today, and I want to, you know, I don't think, okay, no problem, I'll continue to smile. All right. Question 7, let's do it. If alpha plus beta is 90 degrees, alpha equals to 2 beta. What's the value of cos square alpha plus sine square beta? That's the question. Well, alpha plus beta is 90. So this happens when you have a right angle triangle. Think about a right angle triangle. Then one of the angle is already 90. If I call this as alpha and this as beta, then their sum is always 90, right? And given to you that alpha equals to 2 beta. So it's very clear that, you can think of examples like 30 degrees and 60 degrees. Yeah, 30 plus 60 is 90. So, but obviously you can't be so sure about it, but I'm just citing an example. So they have told you clearly that two angles add up to 90 and alpha equals to twice beta. Find the value of cos square alpha plus sine square beta. So do one thing, because they have given to you the relation of alpha with twice beta. You can go ahead and substitute this alpha and write down twice beta here. Okay. So because also remember that they have given to you that alpha plus beta is equal to 90 and alpha equals to 2 beta. Using the first two statements itself, you can actually relate the two variables. Check it out. If I go ahead and swap the value of alpha as 2 beta out here, then I'll clearly get 2 beta plus beta equals to 90, and that gives me 3 beta equals to 90. Divide both sides by 3, beta equals to 30 degrees. Yeah? So if beta is 30 degrees, clearly alpha has to be 60 degrees. Now once we know the values, we'll just put it into this expansion, or sorry, this expression, okay? So cos square alpha, I clearly got the value here. Alpha is 60 degrees, so I'll plug that here. And beta is 30 degrees, so sine square beta, which is 30 degrees. Now I'm assuming you know the trigonometric table where you have the values for all acute angles, the specific angles like 0 degrees, 30 degrees, 45, 60 and 90. And I hope you have remembered them, right? There are many shortcuts to remembering the values. Let me know if you want me to share that. So for now I'm assuming that you already know the values. Sine square 30, I spoke about it yesterday. Sine 30 is half. So same value will be for cos 60. I think you must have been told about this already. As I said, this is 30, then this has to be, out here alpha is 60, so this has to be 60 degrees, and this is the smaller angle, 30 degrees. So the logic why cos 60 and sine 30 has to be the same lies very, it is very much connected to the diagram. With respect to the angle here, with beta here, I can say that this is the perpendicular and this is the hypotenuse. But with respect to alpha, if I have to take the cos alpha, then whatever I was considering the perpendicular before now becomes the adjacent or the base, right? So clearly the same value appears upon the hypotenuse. That is the reason why it makes sense that cos of one angle is always equal to sine of the angle which is found by subtracting the first angle from 90, or two angles adding up to 90 degrees will have the same sine and cos values. Always remember that. If you ever see angles that adds up to 90, then you can always apply that. So cos square 60, definitely, because sine 30 is half, so half squared, that is what I'll do here. Same will be the value for cos 60, so half squared again. Squaring half makes the number more smaller. Always remember this. If you are squaring, if you are raising powers to a number less than 1, then more power you raise, the smaller the value will be. So therefore, half squared is 1/4 plus 1/4. Obviously 1/4 plus 1/4 is 2/4. 2/4 as in half. Yeah, so you would just get the answer half. So that is it. Answer is option B. Right. Answer is option B. Moving on. This is how you approach question. It was from trigonometry. Let's see what next question is from. I like this question. I remember doing this question in class 9 actually. You know, it is there, it used to be there in class 9, but it is a part of this year's syllabus too. This is really interesting. The length of a chord is equal to its radius. What happens in this scenario when the chord is equal to the radius? You have to understand the kind of triangle it forms. So if this is the center, the two radii are always equal. So in a circle, if you consider a triangle made by two radius, it's always isosceles. And now when the chord joining the 2 points will also be equal, then what kind of triangle we get? It is always equilateral. So there is no doubt about that. All the sides are equal. In an equilateral triangle, the angle at each corner, at each vertex has to be 1/3 of 180, which is just 60. So the angle subtended by the chord at the center is 60 degrees. There is so less working here, so answer is just 60 degrees, nothing else. Remember, in any question talks about chord being equal to the radius, always apply this concept. Okay, the triangle formed is always equilateral. There is so less to think about after that. Question 13 is done. Next question. The greatest number which divides 70 and 125, leaving remainders 5 and 8 respectively. Now you are starting this in class 10, but if you'll go ahead and give some competitive exams like, you know, like the regular, your banking exams or maybe any sort of government exams, then this kind of questions are very popular out there, okay? They're asking you the greatest number, first of all. So this question is from number system or the real numbers, the first topic. The greatest number as in you want to find the highest value which will divide both of them, leaving different remainders. So when remainders are considered, you want to get rid of the remainder to find the exact numbers that this greatest number is dividing. So the first number, the word respectively means you will just go in order. First number, from the first number you want to remove this 5. So 70 minus 5, 65. Okay. And the other number is 125. So 125 minus 8. That is what I have to do. So 125 minus 8, how much is that? 117. Now when I see 65, there is only one number that comes into my mind, which is 13. Why? Because I know 5 will definitely divide 65, so I can represent 65 as 5 times 13. I'm sure you know the table of some of the basic numbers like 13, 14, yeah? Because you're in class 10, I assume you will remember some of them. It's not that you sit and memorize and mug it up. It's just that with practice, numbers become easy to you, isn't it? You become familiar with numbers. Similarly, 7 plus 1 plus 1 is 9. Clearly, I know it is divisible by 9. So 9 times how much? I'm expecting one of the numbers. So I'll just be clever and I'll check with this number because I know 5 will not divide this number, 117. The only number I'm allowed to check is 13. You go ahead and check, it is 9 times 13. Yeah. Now clearly, it's very important that we prime factorize numbers, and 5 and 13 were both primes. But what about 9? It is not. Yet it is not going to be much helpful. You can skip this still because you know that 5 and 9 do not have anything in common. So the HCF is just 13, right? So the greatest number that will divide both of these numbers, leaving the respective remainders, will have to be 13. So answer is A, 13. Okay? I hope this is making sense, and I hope you're understanding quite a lot of things. All right. Moving on. Let's see what the next question is, what topic it is from. You can tell me, I'm sure by looking at the question, a question that talks about some sides and angles, there is only one topic that helps to connect the sides of a triangle with its angles, and that's trigonometry. Had there been no trigonometry, people would have been wondering about how they could actually measure the height of the tower without taking the actual scale, you know. So it's actually a really helpful trick, or it's actually a very helpful concept. So a ladder has been given to you. When you lean a ladder against a wall, you cannot keep it vertically. Obviously, it is impossible to climb something. I mean, there are ladders which are kept, obviously it has to stick to the wall, then only you can keep it as a vertical ladder. But usually you want to keep it at an inclined angle, okay? A ladder leans against a wall. If you're leaning it, then obviously I'm assuming that it is inclined at certain angle to the ground. If the foot of the ladder is 7 meters from the wall, so there is a wall, so let's say the ladder has touched the wall at that point. So the foot of the ladder is 7 meters from the wall. Foot of the ladder is 7 meters from the wall, so that measures the base length, you can call it. So that is 7 and this is 14. 7 and 14 do have a relation. You are quite guessing the angle, I guess. Then the angle of elevation of the top of the wall. Question is asking you to find the angle of elevation of the top of the wall. The top of the wall is inclined at what angle? Angle of elevation is always towards the higher point. So therefore, this is the angle they are asking for, right? Angle of elevation is always elevate, as in, it's like going up. So therefore, you're finding this angle, you have the angle, you have the base here. With respect to the angle, the given sides are the base and the hypotenuse. So what will you use? You will always think about using the first 3 trigonometric ratios, okay? Because they are much easy to use and much easy to memorize as well. So the base and the hypotenuse. I don't know what mnemonics have been taught to you in your school. I believe in CBSE, it is mostly taught as some people have curly brown hair, turns permanently black. I guess that is what you have been taught, yeah? In IGCSE, it's taught something else, okay? So they don't call it base and perpendicular. I think I've told you that before. So if you know that, you are talking about base and hypotenuse. So some people have curly brown hair. It's the curly brown hair that talks about both base and hypotenuse. So thereby, I will say that cos of this angle will connect the base, which is 7, with the height, not height, the hypotenuse, and that's 14. So I know the relation here is again half. I know sine 30 is half. So if I have to find in terms of cos, then I have to think about the angle complementary to 30, yeah? Complementary as in 2 angles adding up to 90. So clearly, I think you know that theta has to be 60 degrees. So the angle of elevation of the top of the wall is 60 degrees. Answer is D. Yeah, this is interesting, and trust me, if you are someone who is capable of understanding all these things, then I really believe you can score 100%. And I don't like to settle for less when there is a scope of the highest thing possible, okay? So always aim that high 100%, at least in math, because it's kind of possible. You don't have to be the most brilliant student for that, okay? It's still possible that an average student can still get it, because it's all about understanding and applying the concepts. So answer is 60 degrees here. We are done with this question. Okay. This is easy then. Question 15 is done. Now, these are the questions from a different set, okay? It is beginning from question 1. So it's the third set, I believe. Yesterday, I completed the first set multiple choice. Secondly, the questions till now, all the multiple choice that we were doing so far, they were from set 2. And these are the questions from set 3. So the rest of the questions, they are all same. Obviously, CBSE, what do they do is they will try to make the 3 sets quite different, with some questions being different, while they'll try to place the same questions in different numbers, so that students don't circulate the answers just by some signs. And maybe, it happens, yeah, in class you ask, like, for answer 1, question 1, or just I mean, there are a million ways. People are so creative. Students become so creative with asking answers and seeking help during exams. So this is one way CBSE will try to not let that happen, because you know, you have to be fair with what you're doing. So yeah, it's fun knowing the actual part. It's fun to be knowledgeable and get things right. I mean, if you don't know, you don't know. You don't have to get it right, or you don't have to copy it from someone else to prove yourself for that. Okay, so just make sure whatever you're understanding, you understand it at once and don't forget it, or just understand it clearly. That is my suggestion. Question 1 talks about finding the mode provided they have given you the median and mean. Again, the median has been given to you as 9.6 and the mean has been given to you as 10.5. Now, how exactly can you do this question? I shared the formula, the empirical relationship between mean, median and mode yesterday. Yeah? So it is 1 mode plus 2 mean equals to 3 median. Question has told me to find mode, so what's missing? Mode is missing, so I can take this to the other side. Yeah, and mode does not have a coefficient at the front, so it's just mode equals to find the mode, you can simply do 3 median minus 2 mean. So let me plug in the value of the median. Median is 9.6, so 3 times 9.6 minus 2 times the mean value, which is 10.5. So let's do it. 3 times 9 is 27, and because of this 18, I'll be carrying 1. So 3 times 9, 27 plus 1 is 28.8. A moment, please. All right, let's continue with this question. 2 times 10.5 is how much? 2 times 10 is 20, plus carrying 1 gives me 21. So remove 21 from 28 gives me 7, and then 7.8, right? So the mode has to be 7.8. That is how you calculate mode, provided the other two values are given, and this is how you proceed. Okay, always remember this formula, 1 mode plus 2 mean equals to 3 median, and it's helpful, easy, that's it. Yes, Rishabh, you are right. Sai Balar is also here. He was there yesterday, and yes, even you are right. Welcome back. Yes, I know it was faded black for a while, and I'm back. Okay, I'll let you know if I'll need a pause or a break sometime. So I think I just had something to do just for that moment. Now I'm back, don't worry. Moving on, next question. Question is from trigonometry, because it talks about tan, cosec, sine, sec, everything. So let's see how to approach this question. The first bracket tells me there is no addition or subtraction, it's all multiplication. So let's see if we can get rid of any terms in such cases. I will do that by thinking about other ways I can express the given terms. So tan A. Tan A is supposed to be the, okay, I'll just give you this brief explanation to this part. If this is the angle, this is perpendicular, you call it, this is your base, and this is your hypotenuse, right? So you know sine theta, if I'll have to say sine theta, Sine theta is equal to P upon H, right? Perpendicular upon hypotenuse. And cos theta is equal to base upon hypotenuse. So what if I divide the two equations? On this side, I get P upon H divided by B upon H. So same denominators, you get rid of it. Correct? You got P upon B. The numerator continues to be the numerator while the denominator is B. And I got sine by cos. Now, what do you know? The ratio of perpendicular to base, what is that called as? What is that ratio known as? Tan. So from here comes the concept that tan theta is always equal to sine theta upon cos theta. So I'm going to go ahead and write down. Okay, I think it was not visible you for a while. Okay. So tan theta, instead of tan theta, I'm going to go ahead and write sine A. Now here theta is A, so I'll write A. Okay. Sine A upon cos A. Now cosec is just the reciprocal of sine, right? It is when I take the ratio, otherwise when I take the ratio of hypotenuse to perpendicular, that becomes the reciprocal of sine. So we just have a name for that, which is cosec. So cosec is just 1 by sine A. It's under square, or it's inside a whole square. You clearly see I have something in common for both numerator and denominator. We will get rid of it like this. So what I have in the first bracket is simply 1 by cos A the whole square. Now what is 1 by cos A? They're asking me the reciprocal of cos. The reciprocal of cos is sec, right? 1 by cos A, the reciprocal of cos is sec. So I can write this as sec square A. All right. That is sec square A. Now, if I'll write down the same thing, if I try to simplify the second bracket likewise, I can do it by writing sine A. Now, sine A is already the simplest trigonometric ratio we have, so I don't think I will have to do anything here. While sec A can be written as 1 by sine, correct? Sorry, my bad. Sine, no, 1 by cos. Okay, the reciprocal of cos is sec, the reciprocal of sine is cosec. So again, it's inside whole square. Now, overall, they have nothing in common. I cannot get rid of things, but now my numerator is entirely sine A upon cos A. Right now, I showed you sine upon cos is simply tan. So what I'm getting is tan square A. All right. Question wants me to subtract the two expression, sec square A minus tan square A. Now what is that? It is 1. It comes from the trigonometric identities. If you don't know why it is 1, well, let me know in the comments. I can definitely help you derive the formula for that as well. For me, it is more about understanding why things are like that. I mean, I was always questioning things, okay? Why 1? Why not something else? Or why is it always 1? Or I always used to ask questions. But now with time and with more of this teaching, I have somehow figured out the answers to my own questions. So if you have any such questions that you want to be answered, then I really want to answer them. So please feel free to ask anything if there is something you want to understand why this is the identity and why not something else. Yeah. So this is it. This question I got the answer as 1. So go ahead, mark that answer, and that's it. All right. You are correct. Question 2 is also done. Moving on to finding or to getting the answer for question 11. I think some of you already know how to do it. If you don't know, then you can learn with me. The sum of the zeros of the polynomial. Now this question is talking about the sum. If I'll ask you, the zeros are supposed to be what? That values of x that you plug in into this expression and the whole thing becomes 0. Okay? And when you have been doing this in your junior classes, what you do is you always split the middle term into two terms such that the sum is always equal to this value, right? And now once you have started to learn how you solve them, you must have seen that the final value you get. For example, if you have, sometimes they'll ask you x squared plus, this is something you used to do before in class 8, especially you used to do it. The sum value is given to you in between and the product is given to you like this. This value you split it into two factors such that the factors sum up to give you this value s. When you have like this, you would get two answers, two brackets, isn't it? X plus a and x plus b. You used to get something like this. And now once you have learned quadratic equations, you must have seen that upon solving for each two brackets, what would you get is simply, the answer would be simply the opposite of what values you have. Because if you want to make this bracket 0, you want to plug in the value opposite to this, which is minus a, and you want to plug in minus b. Okay? So these values are now called zeros. So sum of zeros as in, these two values add up to how much? That is what the question is telling me. And now you remember what I did was I took the two values a and b as these two, right? The product or their product was equal to the last term while their sum was equal to this. But if I take their sum actually, then what is it? It has to be minus a minus b, which is negative of a plus b, which means it should be negative of the middle value s, because as I told you, this s here represents the sum of the two numbers that you have considered. So from here comes the concept that to find the sum of the terms or to find the sum of the zeros, what you do is you always take the negative value of what value you have as the coefficient of x. But now in this example, my x squared was just x. If had there been some value here, okay, let's say if I have a value here t, then you have to get rid of this by dividing the whole equation by t, thereby your sum will now be equal to s upon t. So always remember this. If you ever deal with a term or with an expression such that you have the x squared term multiplied to something, then the sum alone is not just this value in between. Okay, by the way, I overlooked the question here. This question has the terms disarranged. Means it's not in the standard form of a quadratic. A quadratic must have the x squared term at the first and the x term in between. I almost missed that. So what you should do is you should always take the x squared term first, giving me minus 7x squared at the front, and then we write the x term and then we write the constant. This is the standard way to leave your quadratic. Okay, and now the middle term here represents the sum, but by getting rid of this minus 7. So if you have to get rid of minus 7, then you can say that you are dividing the entire equation by minus 7, right? And what we do is we take this value but the opposite of it, as I showed you in that example. So the sum is always equal to, or if this is the expression, you don't have to necessarily do this. The sum of zeros can simply be found out by taking the negative coefficient of x. The formula for sum of zeros is negative coefficient of x upon coefficient of x squared. This is the formula whenever you want to find the sum, whereas the product is to take the constant term at the top and divide by the same coefficient. We also call it as the leading coefficient. So here the answer has to be minus 5 upon minus 7. Don't forget, negative comes from the formula and minus 7 is already there as the coefficient. So answer has to be 5 upon 7. Right. I can understand, Alan. Trigonometry was kind of weird when, like all of us, when we were in school days, it never really made sense. All of a sudden sine theta, cos theta, yeah. And I can completely understand, because if I'll also trace back my days, it was not that good. But somehow, with time, I've figured out how or why things were meant to be like that. And once I have understood the importance of trigonometry, I make my best to help everyone understand how important has it been to, to compare just the sides, or just by comparing the ratio of the sides you can figure out their angles, or if I know the angles I can find the side. Nobody told me that before. Trigonometry is the actual concept that helps you connect the sides with the angles. That thing was never told to me. I mean, if I was introduced to trigonometry like that, then maybe I could have understood things, right? But I mean, I can understand how trigonometry was kind of not so good. It happens to come all of a sudden. You are studying numbers and algebra, and there is new kind of thing appearing, right? I can relate to that, honestly. So well, this was question 11, and I hope that made sense. There is a next question coming up from which topic? I think you can recognize the topic, which topic this is. You have been given the two coordinates, and the length of the radius is to be found out. The coordinates given to you are the coordinates of the endpoints of a diameter. So diameter is given to you, you want to find the radius. I think it's pretty clear. In a circle, diameter is supposed to pass through the center, so the radius is simply half of diameter. So if you know the diameter length, you can always half it to find the length of the radius. So this is the concept, yeah? You have the two endpoints. This is -3, -1. I'm just being logical to write the negative at the front and the positive ones at the back. You don't necessarily need a diagram. So this is the concept here. They want you to find the length of the diameter, definitely, because the coordinates are given for that. And you want to find the radius later. So you use the coordinate, the distance formula, which is called, and it's pretty simple. The distance formula is also very simple. It is all about finding the distance between the x coordinates and squaring them up, finding the distance between the y coordinates and squaring them up. It also comes from Pythagoras theorem. I'm sure your teacher has shown you how this distance formula is derived. Yes, please, Rishabh, you can definitely ask me. It's like you have joined from a different account, I guess. That is the reason I feel like calling you Ankush, but I think, yes, please go ahead and ask me anything doubtful in your class 10 maths, okay? Trust me, this is one of the syllabus I love the most. I think if you'll ask me what syllabus do I love the most, I will say class 8 and class 10. Definitely class 11 and 12, it becomes a little complex, but when things started making sense, it becomes more fun. But at the lowest level, or at the basic level, if I can help someone, I think I can help these students, 8 and 10, like mostly. Like it's my favorite syllabus, I'll call it. Class 9 is not so fun because things like congruency and proof things come, like it enters in class 9, and these odd number classes are kind of weird. I don't know. That is my experience. I don't know about you. All right, so let's continue with this question. As I told you, we have to use distance formula here. Yeah, distance formula is simply subtracting the x coordinates. It's the Pythagoras theorem only. You have to find the distance between the 2 points. The reason why this works is because you have, let's say, I know -3, -1 will lie somewhere here. 2, 4 might lie somewhere here, okay? I'm just citing an example. So if I want to find the distance between the 2 points, what we really need, this is the hypotenuse formed by the right triangle, right? And in this right triangle, what we really need is this distance and this one. So clearly, if you know these two coordinates, you know the coordinate for this point as well. Since you know this is -3, -1, and you know this is 2, 4, how to find the coordinate for this? because it lies on the same x-axis with this point, so this has to be 2, okay, because the x coordinate of the line vertical to x-axis will always have the same x coordinates. Similarly, this point and this point, they lie on the same horizontal line, thereby their y coordinate here has to be the same. So all you're doing is just finding the difference between the coordinates here. See, check it out. Yeah, if you look at these two coordinates, then their y coordinates are same. So all we do is we compare the x coordinates, -3, -2. When you want to compare the two coordinates, their distance is -5. When you want to compare their distance, then you have to compare the y coordinates, 4 and -1. The difference is 4 units up and 1 unit down, so overall 5 units. That is how you calculate the distance, right? So that is the reason why the distance formula works. And because you are finding the hypotenuse, you have to add the square of the two sides, and then because the Pythagoras theorem tells me that it has to be a square plus b square equals to c square, and to find the c alone you have to take the square to the other side, giving you that root. Yeah, so in terms of coordinates, when we do that, we simply have to consider the distance between the x coordinates. So visualize the thing that I just drew here. You don't need the diagram, but the derivation is something fun. So -3 and 2 will have a difference of 5. Go ahead, put it in the square root, because you don't have to show your steps here, you can be very quick. -3 and 2 has a difference of 5, so 5 squared. -1 and 4 has a difference of 5 again, so 5 squared. Okay, so 5 plus 5 squared is 25, 25 plus 25 is 50. Square root of 50 can be written as what? Now square root of 50 can be represented as 25 times 2 is 50, so 25 is a square number which comes out of the root, giving me 5, and root 2 is still as it is, so I get 5 root 2. Now the thing is, this is what we are finding. We are finding the distance here. Now distance is not negative, right? So don't consider, go ahead and say anything like this, okay? It's a distance, it's a length we are finding, and we are finding the length of the radius. What we got here is the distance between the two endpoints of a diameter, which is definitely the length of the diameter. So to find for radius, I will have to go ahead and divide by 2. Okay, so the answer is 5 root 2 by 2 units. All right, Rishabh, you can come back. And yes, Alan, definitely I will make videos on these topics, okay? I think according to my schedule, I believe I can try on Saturday. Okay, on Saturday I'm planning to go live based on problems like this one that you're saying. Okay, speed, distance and time, and train, boat. Yeah, they are kind of easy, and mainly if you are looking for this kind of questions, you can actually refer to ICSE book class 8. I mean, I'm just recommending, okay? These kind of questions are commonly there in that book. I mean, the basic ones without algebra, okay? When you come to class 9 and 10, then there are mostly algebra-based questions only. But anyways, there are questions that you can work out from books of 9 and 10, but class 8 ones are really interesting, especially in ICSE, okay? They have these questions, and it's like much detailed questions. Or you can also refer to a lot of materials, but definitely yes, I will refer to some of the books that I have, and I will definitely help you with questions on these topics, okay? I will do that. Question 16 is done. Nice question we have now, which is question number 17 from arithmetic progression. The 11th and 13th term of an AP. Now AP is characterized by having the fixed distance. Yeah. So what is the common difference of the AP, provided you know the 11th term and the 13th term? So 11th term, you don't know the middle term, but you know the 11th term, you know the 13th term. What is the common difference of the AP? Now, yes, there are multiple ways you can do this question again. 11th term is given to you and 13th term is given to you. Because they are asking me to find the common difference, here is my way of doing it. Any term of the arithmetic progression is represented by taking the first term and adding the difference for one less than what position you want to go. The logic is you always start from the first term as A, so to reach the second term, you would add the difference once. To reach the third term, you would add the difference twice. Yeah, the process goes on and on. The concept is to add the difference. Always you add it for one less time than what position you want to go. So if you are going the 100th position, you want to take the first term and add the difference for 99 times. Why am I telling you to particularly follow this method is because you don't want the value of A there, and A appears commonly in all the terms like this. Yeah. So let me go ahead and write down, instead of 11th term, what can I write? Because to reach the 11th term, I'll take the first term and add the difference for 10 times. Okay, that is equal to 39. The second equation tells me, or the second expression tells me that to reach the 13th term, definitely I'll take the first term and add the difference 12 times. Okay, I'll write it at the top so that I can subtract them easily. I have to add the distance or the difference 12 times, one less than what position I'm going. I'm writing it at the top clearly because I want to subtract. You have two variables, so you needed two statements. Once you have two statements, you can subtract and get rid of the common terms or the common variable, which is just A, right? A and A cancels out. 12 minus 10 is 2, so 2D equals to 45 minus 39. 45 minus 39 is 45 minus 39 is equal to how much? Just 6. It's a difference of 6, telling me if I'll divide both sides by 2, my difference has to be equal to 3. I can hear that. So this is how you are supposed to do. Yes, the answer is 3. Yes, Alan, you're right. Answer is option D. Correct? So this is how I approach this question. If you have a shorter way of approaching it, please let me know. Question 18. A card is drawn at random from a pack of 52 cards. What is the probability that the card drawn is a spade or a king? Now that's interesting. Spade is the shape, I'm sure you know, the inverted, the leaf, the black leaf. Yeah, this one. That is a spade. Now how many spades do we have? We have each shape, we have or each design that you see on a card. There are 4 such designs and we have a total of 52 cards. So each design will have 1/4 of 52 cards, which is 13. So we have 13 spades, 13 heart, 13 clubs and 13 diamonds, right? So I have a total of 13 spades, clearly. Now king, I know I have 4 kings, right? For each card I have 4, or for each figure I have 4 cards. But because I have considered 13 spades, one of the king will also be a spade. Thereby the kings I'll consider will not just be 4, I have to consider just 3 of them. Why? Because I have counted 1 already in these spades. One of the spade is definitely a king. So the number of favorable outcomes, favorable as in the ones that they are asking me to pick. They are asking me or. That is the reason why I added. Or is like an option. You can pick a spade or a king. It's not compulsory that it has to be a spade and a king, right? Then the answer would be different. So spade, I have 13 spades and I have definitely 4 kings, but 1 king has already been counted while counting the spades. So therefore, the favorable cards is just 16, 13 plus 3, 16. Out of 52 will be the probability, which is definitely reducible by 4, 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 13 is 52. So answer has to be 4 upon 13. That is there in my option. Go ahead, mark the option. That's it. All right, welcome back, Rishabh. I think you did miss 1 or 2 questions, but you can get back to that, okay? So this is how exactly I approach this question. I hope this made sense to you, right? Why I considered just 3 kings and not 4. I think it does make sense, it is logical. So that was question 18. Wow, that brings us to the end of all the multiple choice questions that you have in 2025 paper, including all sets, okay? 1, 2, 3. I've combined all the questions so far. So yesterday I did 20 of them and I did the remaining today. I think today I had almost like 13 questions, if I'm not wrong. So these are the different multiple choice questions that appeared in 2025. I'll tell you one thing, the questions now that you have in your syllabus, they are much of not so challenging, I can call it, okay? They are not that challenging as it used to be before, because the syllabus has also been reduced and CBSE is trying to make the syllabus more, approachable to majority of the students, and I think they are also trying to keep things, not so hard. So yeah, this is how I have done all the MCQs so far. Rishabh is asking me if I teach science. To be honest, yes, I do teach science, but I love teaching maths more. There is more of talking. There is too much of talking in science, I guess. I love teaching maths because, it's all about playing with numbers mostly. And there is so much fun for me. I do teach science, and for science, I mainly teach chemistry. I do teach chemistry to some of my students, but I'm more interested in maths, okay? It's like a math class does not give me, I don't feel like a class. I just feel like I can do maths even if I'm doing nothing, but with science, it does not happen like that. So I just like, in chemistry also, I like doing numericals. I love those topics where numericals come into. So yeah, of course, I do teach, but please don't tell me now that I should start teaching science. For now, I'll just stick to maths for at least 5, 6, 7 years. That is my plan. Okay, moving on. So we are done with the multiple choice questions. And because you have, some questions for 2 marks, I would like to do some of them so that you can get away with, the basic kind of questions they ask for 2 marks. And I will consider, these questions first, and after that only we will go with section C and section D questions. We'll also go through some case study questions, and yeah, this will take us time, definitely. So today maybe I can do the section B questions from the first set, and then let's see. All right. Section B. Now section B has questions for 2 marks each. So you want to show your steps definitely, but don't spend much time, don't spend more than 2 to 3 minutes for each question. That is my suggestion, okay? Because it's just for 2 marks, and don't give 1 page of working for such questions. Any problem? Okay, so let's get started with the short answer type questions, right? Very short answer type questions. So question 21 is asking me to find out the value of x plus 2y provided they have given me an equation. I call it equation because they have given me some expression and that is equal to the number. So how exactly can I approach questions like this? Let's see. Because this question clearly talks about 60 degrees, 0 degrees and 30 degrees, it is worth remembering the values. I mean, trigonometry, if you're studying, then you should remember the values, yeah? So I believe that you know the values already. X cos 60, that is what they have given me, and cos 60, I showed it to you already, it is equal to half. So half multiplied with x gives me half x. Cos 0 degrees is same as sine 90 degrees, so therefore it has 1. Okay, the relation between cos and sine is just that because for every complementary angles their values are equal. So whatever the value of cos 0 is, that is your sine 90. Whatever is the value of sine 0, that is the value of cos 90. Okay, likewise it is the same, and the cos and the sine values are equal when the angle is exactly 45 degrees. So cos 0 is 1, so 1 times y is definitely y. Think about sine 30, again as I said it is half, so write it as it is. Cot 45, now cot is the reciprocal of tan, and tan 45, I don't know if you know this, 45 degrees as in what? The triangle is isosceles right angle triangle, because this is 90 degrees, this is 45, this is also 45. So either you take the ratio of perpendicular to adjacent or adjacent to perpendicular. It is going to remain the same. The logic is because you have the two sides equal, right? The triangle has become an isosceles triangle. There is no point in saying that hypotenuse will be equal to any of the sides. Yeah, so therefore the other two legs, the base and the height, has to be equal. If they are equal, the triangle is isosceles. So at 45 degrees, tan 45 means the ratio of the perpendicular to base, because the ratio of equal sides will always be 1:1. Tan 45 or cot 45 is always equal to 1. Okay, that is something worth remembering. I've made a shorts on this already. I've showed this working before. So this is equal to 1. I'm going to plug in 1 here, gives me that is equal to 5. Now, if you'll ask me, I see a fraction, I don't like fractions. The first thing that comes to my mind when I see a fraction is to get rid of that fraction, okay? Because, you know, it's not fun actually, because addition is not so direct, or you just have to think about them for a longer time, yeah? So I get rid of the fraction. I see that the denominators are commonly 2. So to get rid of that, I'll just multiply the whole equation by 2. So when I'll do that, I'm doing half times 2 in the first place. Half times 2 is just 1, or the reason I'm multiplying 2 is to get rid of this 2. So it will cancel out, giving me x alone at the top. Now y just becomes, because I'm multiplying the whole equation by 2, this has to become 2y. Again, half times 2 is 1. Minus 1 multiplies with 2 gives me minus 2. And 5 times 2 is 10. Question is asking me for x plus 2y, and I'm very lucky because I just got the same expression. So I'll do nothing, I'll just get rid of this part and bring it to the other side. 1 minus 2 is minus 1. Take it to the other side, becomes plus 1. So it has to be 10 plus 1, which is 11. So the answer has to be 11. Isn't it simple? Right, Rishabh. This is how you do questions like this, and you're right, this is the exact way we follow questions. Even though there are no options, you can still approach to the question like this, okay? So yeah, I mean, this is the kind of questions you can expect in your exams and solve them confidently. Just make sure that you're 100% alert while solving each of the part. My students go ahead and they miss to multiply one of the values, or they just miss to multiply this side, they just multiply one side, you know. These are common mistakes. I mean, it can happen with me sometimes if I'm focusing somewhere else. If I'm thinking about food, then obviously that will happen. So you see, you just need to be 100% alert while solving questions like this, and you will never go wrong. Let's try the next question. Now this is an optional question with the same question, and I believe I should teach you both, because I mean either of the questions you want to approach them correctly, right? So let's do it. Tan square 60 divided by sine square 60 plus cos square 30. You have the values again, so what to do? Obviously, plug in the values, get the answer, as simple as that. Tan 60. Now 60 degrees, tan 60 degrees, what's the value? I'm sure you remember it, or you know the values. You really get, if you think about the trigonometric ratios, for the first three I'm telling, you have values that are mostly, in terms of root, you have two values. Root 2 is common. You get root 3, okay? And definitely 1 is common, 0 is common. These are the values you get as the ratio. Now there is a logic why we get these specific values only. I mean, I have not discussed this part yet, but still I want to discuss it separately, but there is a logic why these values appear only, okay, and nothing else like 3, 4, 5. Not everything appears. 3 still appears in terms of, not exactly 3, but yeah, you do have other numbers too appearing, like 2 appears in case of cosec and sec. But these are the most common numbers. So tan 60, it is one of the highest value that we have, which is root 3. Okay, so because it's getting squared, tan 60 is root 3. I'll square it, and then sine 60. I think I already told you that sine 30 is half. Then sine 60 has to be root 3 by 2. Okay, root 3 by 2 whole squared. Now the same will be for cos 30. I have told you that two complementary angles will have the same sine and cos value. So 60 and 30, they add up to 90. Thereby the square of cos 30 will also be the same. Now you want to simplify. Square root 3 getting squared gives me just 3. At the bottom, what I'll really have is, I have the same thing added twice. So if I have x plus x, you can write 2x. Then the same thing added up, I can write 2 times this. Okay, I mean that's optional. So obviously square of 3 is 3. So root 3, square of root 3 is 3, square of 2 is 4. So I have 3 by 4 plus 3 by 4, which is just the same as 2 times 3 by 4. Why? Because now 2 and 4 cancels out to give me 2. And I think you know this, 3 and 3 cancels out. Why did I do? I cancelled out everything and have 2 at the extreme bottom. What does this 2 mean? It's 1 by 1 upon 2. 1 by 1 upon 2 means the reciprocal of half, the reciprocal of 1 by 2. I also call these as denominator of the denominator. Denominator of the denominator is a numerator. So you just take it to the top, it becomes the numerator. The answer is 2. So this is also one of the ways you can approach a question like this. Okay. All right. Moving on. Find the zeros. These are just 2 marks questions, so don't expect them to be very hard and don't spend much time. Find the zeros of the polynomial. This polynomial has been given to you, so finding the zeros, meaning you want to find the value of x such that this whole thing becomes 0. So first of all, make it into an equation by marking it equal to 0, by equating with 0. And now again you see a fraction with the denominator 3. So you want to go ahead and multiply the whole equation by 3, giving you the fractional terms without the denominator, while the term without that 3 will be multiplied. So 4x minus 4 equals to 0 times anything is 0. So it's easy to solve now. I'm sure the method that you would want to use here can vary. It can be quadratic formula, it can be splitting the middle term, anything. I have actually done a lot of shortcut videos, but being a class 10 student, I would never recommend you to use those shortcuts. They might not be happy giving that answer, okay? So thereby 3 times minus 4, it has to be minus 12. So splitting the middle term is what you want to consider. So you take the product of the first and the last term, which is minus 12 here, right? And now what will you do is you want to find the 2 pairs of minus 12. That gives you or you want to find the two factors of minus 12 that adds up to give you the middle term plus 4. So what do you know? 6 times 2 is 12 and their difference is 4. Now clearly the product here is negative. When the product is negative, you want the numbers to be of the opposite sign, okay? Because you don't get the product negative when the two numbers have the same sign. You have to make sure that your numbers are of the opposite sign. So 6 and 2, I know they are the factors, but to get this negative, I know one of the number has to be negative. Because my sum here is positive 4, I need to make sure my bigger number is positive. Then only I can get the sum as positive value, right? So this has to be positive, 2 has to be negative. I got the two factors, so I will just split the middle term into two factors such that I will write them as 3x square plus 6x minus 2x minus 4 equals to 0. And now take out the common terms. 3x is common, giving me x remaining in the first term. 3x times how much is 6x? 3 times 2 is 6, x into 1 is x, so I just have 2 here. Minus 2x and minus 4 does have minus 2 common, and then minus 2 times how much is minus 2x, which is x. Minus 2 times how much is minus 4? Minus 2 times plus 2 is minus 4. So our purpose is to get this bracket exactly the same. Once I have it, then I have two expressions having something in common, which is x plus 2. So x plus 2 is one common factor and the other one is 3x minus 2, thereby giving me the value of x. I will say that either this bracket is 0 or the second bracket could be 0. To make it 0, you can just think about the opposite value you got here. So x plus 2 is equal to 0, gives me x has to be equal to minus 2. Just write the opposite value. So here what's the opposite? To get the opposite of 3x minus 2, what is it that you're going to do is just oppose the operation. Minus 2 is there, so it becomes plus 2. 3 is multiplying, so it will divide. This is how you can approach questions, and this is the exact way you have found the zeros of the polynomial. Alright, I just hope this made sense, and this is the exact way we deal with finding the zeros of the polynomial. Okay? Yes, Rishabh, currently I am teaching students from Middle East, and mostly they are from Middle East right now, and US, UK, these are the different countries. I have one student from Canada as well. So yeah, I mean, they are mostly like, I mean, they are scattered all over the world. So sometimes I might have a new enrollment from a different country. So I'm just open to students from any countries. Okay, they just, I mean, they visit my profile and they just approach. So I'm not sure where, like, I'm not restricted to just one or two countries. So it entirely depends on them. Okay, I think we did come across a lot of questions today, and I do have a lot of more questions coming up, definitely. Okay, tomorrow I cannot promise about tomorrow's live session because tomorrow I have a very hectic schedule. Like tomorrow I'm the busiest of all days. So we will keep you notified if we are coming live next on tomorrow by any chance, if there will be, but still there is less chance for tomorrow. And day after, definitely we'll have live sessions for like during the daytime and evening as well. So I hope I'll see you again, and I hope whatever you have understood today, you will not forget it and you will stay in practice, and you're aiming for 100%. That's it. I will see you. I'll see you tomorrow or day after. That is it for now.